British Prime Minister Winston Churchill once said, "The only thing worse than having allies is not having them." Allow me to introduce you to World War II, the deadliest war in human history, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 85 million people, about 3 to 4% of the world's population at the time. Whether it be the indiscriminate bombing tactics of the British or the precision tactics of the Americans, all were executed in pursuit of the Allies' ultimate goal, defeating the Axis powers. But at what cost? Who really paid the price beyond the arms deals, buildings burnt and inflation? You get where I'm going here, right? Today we're going to talk about the true costs of war. World War II is often told through the stories of soldiers and battles of victory and defeat, but beyond the front lines another war raged, a war against ordinary people. Civilians were not just bystanders, they were targets, casualties and survivors of the world's deadliest conflict. This is their story. Before the war, life was normal, families gathered for dinner, children played in the streets and cities thrived. But with the outbreak of war, the world changed overnight. Rationing stripped tables bare. According to the National Archives, ration books were issued to ensure fair distribution of scarce resources. Blackouts turned cities into ghost towns. Parents sent their children away, hoping to spare them from the horrors to come. Eyewitness accounts from the Mass Observation Archive reveal the fear and uncertainty that gripped families during these evacuations. For many, the battlefield came to them. The Blitz, a campaign of relentless bombing, turned homes into rubble and lives into statistics. The Imperial War Museum holds numerous diaries and letters from civilians who lived through these harrowing nights. Every night families huddled in subway stations, praying that when they emerged their world would still be standing. The London Transport Museum archives contain poignant testimonies from those who sought refuge underground. For many, those prayers went unanswered. August 6th and 9th, 1945. 2 bombs, 2 cities, hundreds of thousands of lives extinguished in an instant. The Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum preserves the haunting memories of survivors known as hibakusha. But the destruction did not end there. Radiation lingered, poisoning the air, the land, and future generations. The National Diet Library in Japan holds extensive records on the long-term effects of radiation exposure. The world had entered the atomic age, but at an unimaginable cost. For millions, home was no longer an option. Entire families fled across borders seeking safety, but often finding more suffering. The United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, UNRWA, reports detail the dire conditions faced by refugees. It was not just soldiers who perished, it was children, mothers, and the innocent, victims of hatred and systematic murder. For millions, home was no longer an option. Entire families fled across borders, seeking safety but often finding more suffering. The United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, UNRWA, reports detail the dire conditions faced by refugees. Refugees were crammed into camps, torn from their roots, and forced to start over with nothing. The International Red Cross archives provide a sobering look at the challenges of post-war displacement. Displacement was yet another wound that the war left unhealed. While men fought on the front lines, women fought in the shadows, building the weapons of war, tending to the wounded and resisting oppression. The Women's Army Corps archives highlight their invaluable contributions. The war was not won without them, yet their contributions were often forgotten. Their fight did not end in 1945, it continued in the struggle for recognition. The National Archives hold records of post-war efforts to acknowledge women's roles. When the war ended, the scars remained. Cities could be rebuilt, but how do you rebuild a shattered soul? The Nuremberg trials sought justice, but no verdict could bring back the dead. The trial transcripts are preserved in the Harvard Law School library. For many, there was no closure, only the echoes of a past that could never be erased. History is more than dates and battles. It is the story of the people who lived, who suffered, and who endured. The civilians of World War II were not merely victims, they were witnesses to the worst of humanity. Their stories must be told, their pain must be acknowledged, and their resilience must be honored. The oral histories collected by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum are a testament to their experiences. War is not just history, it is a lesson. Let us remember, let us learn, and let us ensure that the voices of civilians are never silenced again. The economic impact of World War II on civilians was devastating. Rationing became a way of life, with families receiving limited supplies of food, clothing, and fuel. According to the National World War II Museum, ration books were issued to ensure fair distribution of scarce resources. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, taking on roles in factories, farms, and offices. The cultural shift was significant as women proved their capability in traditionally male-dominated fields. The Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historical Park preserves these stories. Socially, the war disrupted education and family life. Schools were closed or repurposed, and children were often evacuated to the countryside. The BBC reports that over 3.5 million children were relocated in Britain alone. Health crises were rampant. Malnutrition, disease, and psychological trauma affected millions. The World Health Organization notes that the war exacerbated existing health issues and created new ones, such as widespread PTSD. The displacement of civilians was one of the most tragic outcomes. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, over 60 million people were displaced during and after the war, creating a global refugee crisis. Refugee camps were overcrowded and under-resourced. Families lived in makeshift shelters, often without adequate food, water, or medical care. The International Red Cross provided some relief, but the scale of the crisis was overwhelming. The cultural impact of the war was profound. Art, literature, and music reflected the pain and resilience of those who lived through it. Memorials and museums around the world serve as reminders of the sacrifices made. As we reflect on these untold stories, let us remember the words of historian Howard Zinn. War itself is the enemy of the human race. The true cost of war is measured not in victories or defeats, but in the lives forever changed. The resilience of civilians during World War II is a testament to the human spirit. Their stories of survival, loss, and hope must be preserved for future generations. Let us honor their memory by striving for a world where such suffering is never repeated. Let us learn from the past to build a better future, and let us ensure that the voices of civilians are never silenced again.